every now and then across the gaming landscape between the dumpster fires of shameless asset-flipped games and the ivory towers of repetitive AAA games, we get tales such as this. Stories of releases, stumbles, resurrections, and redemptions. Cyberpunk 2077 falls into this category of story, dating all the way back to the announcement trailer and at the reveal of CD Projekt Red helming this project. People were admittedly hyped for this game to come out. However, much like with another title that falls into this category, aka No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk did not hit the ground running, plagued with issues across the board and across platforms which a lot of people shouted about very loudly. Cyberpunk struggled to receive the same praise as Red's previous game, The Witcher 3. However, Cyberpunk did not fall during this race, and the rocky start and the criticisms did not hamper its momentum. And while not everyone had experienced the same issues, and they got to experience a game that they enjoyed, Cyberpunk continued to get better with every single update after that. And that is what this review is going to be about, looking at some of the good parts, some of the okay parts, and parts that could really be built up more. And honestly, finding and picking elements of the game to fall within those categories has been the hardest part of making this review, beyond writing the script and getting footage. So I had to often remind myself that while all the points that I'm going to raise, especially in the good and the okay, they are based on my experiences playing this game for 145 hours. They're not going to match with everyone else's. So if you agree with some of these, fantastic. If not, please do let me know or comment on what you think should be in these sections, because everyone's experiences is different, and that's what we're hoping to cover in these series, to look at what people do like about these games. However, for the potential, it was decided more or less straight away that this would be a suggestion-based section. This is ideas and concepts that would make the game interesting or make an aspect of the game more fluid, a lot more fun or useful. So this could be for mods or, for the rarity, a free future DLC. But given the fact CD Projekt Red were like, no, we're finished with Cyberpunk now, we're going to move on to the next thing. Yeah, we're probably not going to see that kind of thing. So moving into the good, possibly and personally the strongest element of Cyberpunk that has always caught me by the scruff of the neck and we're like, you will enjoy this because it is good, and it is. And that is the gameplay loop. Because even if the game itself has the world's best narrative with all the best plot ever, it's nothing without good gameplay. And Cyberpunk gives you that, gives you an engaging and fun gameplay. Outside of the main story of Fee, the main character, you will often find yourself taking on gigs, which are small side quests assigned by fixers. These gigs fall into certain categories such as thievery, sabotage, extraction, search and recover, and gun for hire. These tend to be quick distractions from the main story, and normally they are a one and done, but every now and then, especially with the extraction missions, the people that you extract can show up again and give rewards or have a little bit of conversation. In total, from my own experiences of whereabouts I am in the game right now, there are 6 fixers within Night City, and it is entirely possible there is one more in the DLC, but as I haven't started the DLC yet, I cannot confirm this. And completing all of the gigs for a fixer will grant rewards, depending on the fixer that you do these jobs for. However, if gig missions aren't your cup of tea, then during your travels you will come across NCPD assaults in progress. These are random encounters with the various gangs of Night City that will reward you with street cred and random loot. They are probably one of the activities that I really enjoy coming across during my own time playing in Night City, often making me pause whatever story mission I am on just to tackle the assault, then continue onwards to my main objective. Most of the time these are just random encounters, but occasionally you'll get a dispatch call from the NCPD and a little bit of lore will be added to the assault, making it feel more important for you to take down these gangs. Beyond NCPD spots and gigs, there are numerous introduce mini-bosses to fight, referred to as cyber psychos. These are always one-on-one missions that require you to not simply go in guns ablaze, as these bosses narratively need to be kept alive, so you'll often need to plan ahead to take them down non-lethally. No matter which ones you focus on, you will be mainly rewarded with street cred and enough credits to help upgrade weapons and maintain the playstyle you choose, with street cred granting discounts to vendors and unlocking cars at the auto fixers. So it becomes a lot easier to maintain your character and also buy new shinier stuff. Along with the engaging gameplay, the narrative of Cyberpunk is a strong element of enjoyment during your time playing. Outside of the main story, a lot of the world building is done through readable shards that you can collect through looting, through missions itself, TV and radio chatter. Personally, before 2.0, I would have said this aspect would have felt better in the OK section because it didn't feel alive. It wasn't really fleshed out. Now, I could be completely wrong here because I didn't really pay attention that much during the early days. So again, I could be entirely wrong. But with the patch update, there seems to be more life to Night City, and the story elements that get mentioned and expanded upon as you progress through the game really help you immerse yourself into this world. And finally, in such games like this, combat can make or break that enjoyment. And thankfully, combat in Night City is fluid and engaging, with different weapon types from power to tech to smart to blunt and blade for melee weapons. The combat never really feels repetitive, at least to me, with the addition of weapon-specific talents that will grant you skills for the different weapon types, such as Wrecking Ball and Quake for the blunt melee, or lunge attacks for blades, and poison throwing weapons, to skills like the bolt for tech guns, or improving the lock-on times for smart weapons. They really make tackling cyber psychos, gangs, story fights, all of that, it really helps them feel more alive and more enjoyable for the player. Now, moving on to the OK section. One of the biggest issues I would say that Cyberpunk has, much like other open world games, is the use of vehicles in an open world game. If you're going to have an emphasis on vehicle use, please make fast travel less accessible. Now, thankfully, they kind of have with Cyberpunk, because you have to go to very specific points to fast travel, but with the amount of locations in the game to do that, it makes driving around on bikes or in cars not that enjoyable or necessary. Thankfully, in 2.0, vehicles have had some importance added to them, with vehicle-based combat becoming more accessible and more useful, with talents and abilities that allow you to increase damage, reduce damage that you take, allowing you to do jumps out of a vehicle, slide off a vehicle, slow down time, and also to hack other vehicles as well. It is a lot more fun to use them, but the importance of them is still there's fast travel, that is how the player's mind works, from what I have ascertained from my own playthrough and talking to friends who also play Cyberpunk. One of the good things they have added to the vehicles beyond the talents is the ability to, as I mentioned previously, to buy them from a specific shop. Originally, you would have to go out and get notified about a vehicle from a fixer, and therefore you would have to hunt that down. Now you can just buy the vehicle very quickly. You can also get weaponized vehicles. These generally just have machine guns or rockets or both. And it's a lot of fun to use because vehicle combat has always felt lackluster. You apart from like scripted events, you could not really do much shooting from a vehicle. So having that there is a lot of fun. Progression in Cyberpunk all depends on 4 aspects to the game: cyberware, level, talents, and street cred. Now, obviously, level and street cred we've more or less covered already. Street cred, the reason why it's more or less in the OK section is because it isn't important to the game. It really isn't. In terms of the world building and the living world as it is, you generally don't get that much outside of those discounts that I mentioned in the good. So up to the max level, which is 50, you are just like, oh, I got a street cred level. Yay, I can get things cheaper. Yay. So it's not as an important aspect, and it really should be. This should be affecting how people respect you. So when you're talking to gangs, they're like, oh, it's V, let's be nicer. So I would have liked that, and I think that is something I will be bringing up in the potential, just to give like, that needs to be something more. As for level is very simple in like every single open world game. The more you level, the stronger you get. And while there is no attribute points in terms of like Baldur's Gate, where it's like, oh, I've leveled up, my attack goes up, my thing goes up, a lot of it all falls down to the attribute points that you get and the talent points. So you get to choose how you develop through these levels. For the main ones, which is mainly the cyberware and the talents themselves, which we'll look at in a minute, the cyberware prior to 2.0 was very much the case of, if you can mod it, you can do it. So one of the things I really did enjoy about pre 2.0 was being able to modify mantis blades, for example, or monowire to be non-lethal in its use, which is kind of a fun, silly idea of these deadly weapons that can mutilate and dismember people very quickly being non-lethal. But with the changes that 2.0 have brought, a lot of the cyberware that you find or you purchase can be upgradable through the use of crafting materials, which gives the crafting aspect of the game, which is so small, I've not even mentioned it in this review so far. It gives those crafting materials purpose, and upgrading cyberware allows you to select specific bonuses that you get from them, depending on what talents you take. And in total, there are 5 tiers of crafting materials and 5 tiers of upgrade. Depending on if you have the requisite talent, you will actually get 3 choices when you get to tier 3, which allow you to be a lot more like, oh, this is going to give me more headshot damage. This is something I want to take on, like an eye upgrade, or more carrying, more armor, that kind of thing, which is very good. And random things like reduced detection, which is very useful, especially if you're trying to be stealthy and using like optical camo to move around and sneak up behind someone to remove them from the playing field, as it were. So instead of having to go and buy new cyberware every couple of levels, having that upgradable ability allows you to make sure that everything is on the same level as V, which allows for a lot more smoother upgrading and progression, with the only real things that you need to change out are your legs, your arms, and your cyber disc. It's not really called a cyber disc, is it? But I call it that because it sounds cool. Cyber deck, that's it. So I completely forgot during the middle of this review what that was called, because hacking in this game is very important and it is built off the cyberware. And again, I say it's important. My own playstyle, I haven't really touched it, and we'll talk about that in a minute though. We'll move into that. We'll move into that now. So hacking in this game is okay. Like, personally, it is okay for me because it is not what we were promised back in the original trailers for this game. What it is now is a lot more fun, I will say. Like, early Cyberpunk, the hacking stuff was and basically how it works is you have the ability to do quick hacks, which can ping locations, which can reset optics, which can really just mess with a player entirely, set them on fire, as it were. So that allows for a lot more fun, but if you're not really dedicating yourself to becoming a netrunner in the game, it's not as useful, personally, I will say that. And one of the other things that hacking has is there are certain points where you can get crafting materials and dollars, euro dollars or credits, that literally has no real purpose other than giving you those materials. And this is a little sequence game. You have to match the numbers or the letters in a particular order to unlock each tier. As you progress through the talents, you will get shorter sequences to do and just develop from there, which is good. They thought about that and gave you a lot of like camera hacking and vehicle hacking and being able to do sequence hacking a lot faster, which again is good. And the resource for hacking is RAM, which is determined by level and your cyber deck, which is very nice. But as I said, it's not a massive important like good point, but it's an okay point, is what I'm trying to say. It's a good thing that's in the game, but you don't really have have to do that much, like using hacking if you don't want to. It's not important enough for that. The last thing, obviously, is talents. Now, talents have been streamlined massively, and it is the best thing they did with this update. Talents before 2.0 were very nebulous in terms of their importance to the game, because you never really knew what they did. You know, you would get like, oh, you can have less recoil, but it's like, how important is that? So now with 2.0, it's all based on a tier system. So depending on how many points you put in a particular attribute determines what talents are available to you. So you have sort of like a basic rookie level all the way up to edge runner pro kind of level. And as you progress up those tiers, the more powerful those talents become. And one of the best things that I think CD Projekt Red have added to the talent system is the ability to refund talents for free. Now, you can do that with the attributes, but you could only do it once. Prior to 2.0, you could do it any number of times, and it would be a full reset. Now, the attributes can only be reset once, where the talents are free to refund and move around, which is very useful if you find yourself going, oh, I need more RAM, I need to put talents in the RAM section of the talent tree to be able to do hacking or to take control of a vehicle or just to get past this one barrier in my way. So it is a very useful upgrade to the game, I think, and having very specific things unlocked through the talents, like mentioned before, the Wrecking Ball ability, the Quake ability, these are very good. And like I said, while I've put it in the okay because it is a good change, but it does sort of stifle you in the early games, because it's like you need to be leveling up one particular thing quickly in order to unlock more options. But yeah, like while it has these things, it could easily fall into the good section if you enjoy the talents now compared to the old ones. And finally, this is going to be the shortest part of this review. This is the potential. Now, there are only 4 things I can really consider being improvements to the game, and I did ask a friend of mine who has just started playing Cyberpunk with the updates, so I got his feedback and his ideas. So 2 of these are his, 2 of these are mine. One of the first things that could improve the gameplay, especially when we talked about Street Cred earlier, doing very little beyond discounts, is having gang-related content, allowing you to build respect, have a ranking system, have a respect system in place with gangs. The more respect you gain, the more bonuses you get, and Street Cred could work into that, allowing you to more or less not anger gangs the moment you step into a place, you know, and they're a little bit more friendly with you, and it allows for a little bit more freedom and a little bit more safety as well. I mentioned this earlier with the sequence game for hacking. Add more to that, because like I said early on in the early life cycle of Cyberpunk, it seemed like there was a lot more to the breach minigame, the sequence game, than just gaining eddies, gaining money, and crafting materials. So having something more to do with that, maybe affecting the base that you're in, impacting turrets or cameras, a little bit more like that, you know, a little bit more freedom, a little bit more usefulness to doing these mini games. Now, the last 2 are very, very basic stuff in terms of like, these should really be in this. Having more customization for the main character. Now, what do I mean by this? Because the customization is good when you make your character, and you get to change your appearance at any point, which is fun, but having more visual changes reflecting on how much cyberware you use. So very quickly, sort of when you get the arm upgrades to the game, if you go for gorilla arms, monowire, mantis blades, the repulsion cannon, it's not repulsion cannon, but it is cannon arm basically, you can see that on your character. You can see the upgraded hands for gorilla. You can see the blades because they pop out as soon as you equip them. Those are aspects that you see, but when you upgrade your legs, you don't really see any changes there. When you add armor to your character, you don't really see the skin changing to look more armor plated, like honeycomb plates. So you don't, and like even the eyes, you don't really see any changes there. And it's really disappointing that the visual changes aren't there. Because I think it would be really cool, because you do see characters with very like needle-like legs who can run very fast, and that's really, really cool. And I think that would work quite well for the game. And the last part of this review and this last potential is vehicle options. Now, I know I said vehicles aren't that important in the game, and they're not, but vehicles that you steal, because you can steal like cop cars or the bikes and stuff like that, having the ability to store them in your garage, having the ability to recall them would be very, very good. And as well as the ability to customize how they look. And that customization can also go to weapons, which is something I completely forgot to write in the script. But being able to change the appearance of vehicles and weapons to match how your V is. So if your V likes the color purple, having your vehicles all purpley like Saints Row, which is a callback I never thought I'd make. But yeah, like having them like that, like the 3rd Street Saints, having that sort of color scheme, or having different patterns or imagery that you can add to the vehicles or the guns or the clothing that you have, or hell, even being able to decorate your apartments a lot more. Small customization options like this personally would make Cyberpunk 2077 even more engaging for me, because I love that shit. I really do. I love being able to customize my apartment or customize my appearance beyond just the physical appearance of the character. It's like, oh, the clothing needs to be dyed a certain color. That kind of thing. It is a wonderful thing. And it's one of the reasons why it's a strong potential for me. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of this review, end of this video. This honestly was a challenge for me to do this, because a lot of aspects to this have been new. I'm not used to editing. I'm not used to script writing. I'm not used to doing voiceover work like this. And it's been a wonderful challenge, and I really, really hope that if you made it this far, you enjoyed it. And if you did, please do let me know in the comments, leave a like, subscribe, that kind of thing. And for the next game, I would be interested to hear if you want me to have a look at any other game. I'm kind of getting back into Elden Ring right now, so I kind of might want to do that in the future. But the next review that I'll be putting out is going to be a tokusatsu review of the series Lupin Ranger versus Pato Ranger, which is a very good series, and that one's going to be a lot easier to put out because it's not going to be heavily edited like this. So I do hope you enjoy that one, and thank you so much. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, if you made it to the end, thank you so very much. This is a massive step forward for me to do this, and you guys watching this really means the world. So until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys very soon. Till then, take care.